Well, hello and welcome to the Tao Manifesting Tarot, the most unusual tarot reading anywhere. The reason for that is the fact that I don't do any rainbows or unicorns or fantasy type of readings. Done tarot for over 20 years. In that time, I found out that for me, my point of view, tarot really doesn't predict a damn thing, but it is the science of potential, your potential to manifest, to create pictures inside your own head. No, I am not saying a desktop, laptop. I'm not saying AI, smartphones. You have to create the pictures in your own head. And the reason is the connection that you have with your mentality, your spirituality, and your emotions. You do not get that from the tech stuff. So using the tech stuff to create, a lot of people do that. Oh, chat GTP or Grok or whatever the heck, you could write this letter up for me. That's bullshit. What you're doing is dumbing yourself down. You are losing your creativity. In fact, there have been several studies done which show they have followed people through their schooling, and 5 year olds, kindergartners, 99% of them, high creativity. By the time those same kids get their PhDs, almost zero have creativity because they've been programmed not to think, but to repeat, spit out the information, the point of view, the politics of what we've told you. Don't think. We don't want you to think. Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller, the guy who built our education system in the early 1900s, said, I want a nation of doers, not thinkers. And based on three, maybe four studies, I think, it's apparently what happens. Creative as kids. Wow, it's fabulous. PhDs couldn't find their ass with two hands. And just a report on what's going on with our mentality about, I think a month, maybe two ago, IQ scores dropped 6 to 9 points. Now, if you're familiar with IQ scores, that's a lot. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that's huge. And it means we're getting dumber. So the idea is for you to tap into your spirit, tap into your emotions, tap into your humanity. So the tarot is my destination point. Okay, it is like the best meal in your life. Whatever your favorite is, let me get whatever you would want to eat the most. That's what tarot is. It's your destination. But to get us there, I use numerology and astrology. Yeah, no rainbows, no unicorns, no fantasy. We don't live, unfortunately, in a fantasy time. Just the opposite. This is apocalyptic times. I know people don't want to hear it. It's a downer. It's a bummer. Oh, man, you're negative. Well, take a look around the world. Tell me what you can conclude. Chaos, catastrophe, problems across the world. And you know what's funny about it? They're all the same. Almost like it's been planned. Huh. Well, anyway, that's the reason I do the tarot with the astrology and the numerology. The astrology, numerology, the science of cycles, things keep repeating. Think of that as the layout for this meal. The finest silverware and china and glass or whatever. I don't care. Whatever you would find appropriate. And then the tarot is your favorite meal. But you got to combine the two together. Today's tarot frequency is your destination. But we use the numerology and astrology as kind of a roadmap. Today's manifesting tarot message: feed your soul. Feed your soul. Back, oh gosh, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, whatever. Back, let's say in early biblical times, just to kind of give a frame of reference, you could live off of a diet of milk and honey. They were not pasteurized, they were not poisoned, they were organic, they were just as nature intended. Unpasteurized raw milk, loaded with nutrition of all kinds. I mean, loaded. And tastes really good too. I had some out California when I was working at a radio station out there. Good stuff. Honey is even bigger. They have, in investigating the pyramids, they've run across honey that was 4 or 5,000 years old, still perfect today, still edible today. I'm perfectly fine. Tastes great. You'd never know the difference. 5,000 years old. Never refrigerated, never not. So back then, when you lived in a land of milk and honey, you had it all. You could live off of that. And that's what we're talking about right now. Feed your spirit, feed your soul. And we're doing that in today's tarot manifested reading. Before I get too carried away and we get into this thing, I just want to remind you I do have a singular email that you can contact me at. Please do. Feel free. Good, bad, indifferent. Doesn't make any difference. Tao at tarot or tau-tarot at proton.me. It's in my face. I should be able to read it, but I guess English is my second language, apparently. Tau-tarot at proton.me. One more time because I screwed up. Tau-tarot at proton.me. Write me the email. Give me a line. Good, bad, indifferent. Just a little start a conversation. Let me know that you're there. I really will appreciate it. Okay. So today's Tau Manifesting Tarot message is feed your soul. Difficult to do in these times to feed anything if you see your grocery bill. But let's go to the astrologic. I talked about astrology, numerology. This is a little piece I throw in every day. Kind of gives you some starting point. You'll see at the top of the page on the right side, Conquest of America. I started this idea back, maybe 2 months ago. And the reason I did is next year, July 4th, 2026, will be the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. Back then, we had Pluto in one particular spot in the sky. We had Uranus in another part in the sky. Took 250 years because it takes Pluto 250 years to go around the solar system. It's back, and Uranus is in the same spot. So Pluto and Uranus are back in the same spot. Well, they were about 2 years ago. They're still hanging. They're close enough. The planet's going to go retro. Believe me, we're still feeling it. All you got to do is take a look around the world. Pluto means evolution. Uranus means revolution. And that's really what we're dealing with around the whole world. People know we got to evolve. People know we got to change. We got to improve. We got to get better. We got to. But the only way that we're going to do it is with revolution. First, within ourselves. And then we may have to take it outside. Saw a meme just the other day. In fact, I had it up here, about 3-4 days ago. A gal was saying that, for all the praying, because people love to do that, in part because I think they want to be spiritual, but in part they're cowards. If I keep praying, it's going to come through. She says, even though the prayer after prayer after prayer, David still had to throw a stone at Goliath. You still got to take action. You can't skip that part. And it's becoming very obvious to people all around the world, from Europe to the United States. You can't sit and watch. You can't do it. Somewhere between 2027 and 2030, this singularity that the deep state has in mind for us is going to take over. And then it will be virtually impossible to get the hell out of the ditch, the hole that I dug for ourselves. So I decided, let's take a look at the conquest of America. We find out that starting in 1492, the European bankers had their sights set on the New World. Let's say 1600s or so. The European bankers, primarily the Rothschilds, but not exclusively, helped out the King of England. They said, we'll lend you your money. They were in that business. They said, but along with the interest on the money that we're going to lend you, you also have to do us another favor, and that is let us start the Bank of England. You have nothing to do with it. You can be a shareholder. You want to buy in, that's fine, but we're going to run it. King wanted to get war. King needed money. King agreed. Well, the minute that happened, things began to change, because this Bank of England, run by the Rothschilds and others, began to, as they always do, soak up the money in the country of England, Britain. England at that point was a superpower. Well, they began to take it over. And when the colonists came from England to the United States, they had that same plan in mind. In fact, the Boston Tea Party started in part because the Rothschilds owned the majority of the British Tea Company and was squeezing the Americans, colonists, who were primarily British and loved their tea. And they got upset. There were a whole bunch of other things added to that as well. But again, it was the bank's control. 1700, you get Adam Smith coming by, another British guy who decides, well, we've been using usury, that is, charging people interest for debt. How about if we change the name from usury, because it had a bad reputation, horrible. Let's call it capitalism. Sounds so much better, doesn't it? Hey. Well, then the Bank of England really tried to lock onto the United States. They did set up Wall Street. They had not one, but two banks of the United States. And by the time they were getting ready for the third round, Andrew Jackson said no. Lincoln said no. Garfield said no. They all died, by the way. And that led us to the Fed, which I will be talking about in a day or maybe tomorrow, I think I'll be talking about. That was the selling of America. And since then, the banks have had open season on America. So we're not quite up to 1913 when the Fed was formed, but let's look at 1905 to 1910. Very interesting time period. The Model T came out, Ford's Model T. The FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, was established. There was something that Teddy Roosevelt pushed for, the Pure Food and Drug Act. Sounds familiar, huh? Sounds like RFK today, huh? Yeah, interesting. San Francisco earthquake, 1906. Labor unions and corporations were battling. Corporations had grown through the 1870s, 1880s, 1890s. They were huge. They were megaliths, and man, they were pushing hard. So the workers pushed back as well. It was an interesting time, and the astrology says at that point you had Uranus and Neptune oppose one another. That's a toughie. That's a toughie. That's a tough aspect. Uranus in Capricorn, Neptune in Cancer. Wow. Delusion, emotionalism. Pluto in Gemini, by the way, which really kind of conflated things to the point where there was rapid change, but it was shallow. For looks only. So Uranus and Neptune are trying to change something they can't quite grab onto. Well, they can feel it emotionally, but Uranus and Neptune are different energies. They just, yeah, we're looking for clean food. Yeah, we're looking for better labor stuff. Yes, we're looking for, but you're not getting it. And Pluto says we're going to change, and right now. And all of this energy led to what I think is world-changing actions. The Fed, World War I, set us up for what we're dealing with right now. That's coming up in a day or two. Let's go to the meme for the day. Nurses are taught to give newborns multiple vaccines if they think the parents are anti-vax. Huh. So what happened to the parents? Here's this politics. Here's this push by the deep state to control. We want vaxes. And the reason they want vaxes, we may have a chance to get into. I'm not going to do it now because it just take up too much time. But believe me, there's more to all of that than simply a shot. It's part of a bigger plan. But the part that bothers me is that nurses are taught to give newborns multiple vaccines if they think the parents are anti-vaxxers. You wonder why I would, at my age, have nothing to do with the medical profession. Nothing. If I have a heart attack, I die. That's it, man. I've lived to almost 80. Okay, I've had a life. I'm not going to go into the hospital. I'm not going to trust the doctors. They have shown over the last several years they cannot be trusted. They're crooks. Proof. Let's go to the missing link. Still dealing with the same thing. I'm a baby boomer, and the baby boomers had measles, mumps, and chickenpox. But if you listen to Big Pharma today, oh man, it's terrible. I survived. I had all three, actually. Today's kids have autism, SIDS, seizures, Tourette syndrome, lupus, allergies, diabetes, ovarian failure, autoimmunity, cancer, a whole lot more. They're sick and sick. In fact, new study out of Japan, a world famous virologist there said the more shots you get, the more likely you are to die quickly and discomforting. So nurses are trained to look at the parents, and if they think the parents are not going to get their kid vax, you vax them anyway. And then they're saying, hey, take a look at the health of kids today. You think there is a connection? Yeah, me too. Let's do the tarot stuff. Five of Pentacles. You see these two people walking past the church. In other versions of that tarot card, you can see that it's a church. The lights are on because you can see the pentacles. These people, they're walking in snow. One guy's a cripple. The gal is poorly dressed. They're not set for winter or the cold, the chill, any of that stuff. And yet they walk by a church that's open. Why? Because they're not worthy. They're just peons. But if they just knock down the door, they might be able to get into the church, at least sleep on a pew overnight, at least stay warm, may even get a meal or two. Nah, they're not worthy. Five of Pentacles. They have a poor spirit. They do not love or believe in themselves. Next one up is the Knight of Pentacles. Knights are always bringing gifts. Pentacles are your value system. After you go through this period where you feel like a piece of shit because you were trained to feel that way, maybe you'll have a chance to take a look at why you feel that way. Because the Knight of Pentacles is realistic and consistent. High values, high values. And maybe you will, because knights do give gifts, maybe you will get the gift of true values. Wow, wouldn't that set you free? Yeah, it would. Ace of Wands, final card. You got the courage to plug into a life that is yours, not what they tell you, but what is yours. You have a chance to actually live your life. Wow, feeling plugged in. That's one of the things that I notice about people. You know, I live in a small community here on Lake Superior 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but there was a lot of activity all the time outdoors. Last few days, we've had something that we haven't had most of the summer. Clear blue skies, cooler temperatures, lots of sunshine. And I don't see anybody outside. Yeah, we've lost our humanity. It's time to plug in again. But to do that, you got to quit feeling like some sort of an asshole with the Five of Pentacles. Give yourself a new view, a new value system, and then be willing to live a life of joy, of happiness. Be plugged in. You have that choice. Remember, tarot is the science of potential. You use yours. Well, that's it for today. We're out of time. Thank you for whatever time you and I spend together. I look forward to it every single day. You don't know how important. I can't put it into words, but I do want to remind you, please like and subscribe. It's essential. It's vital. There's a war going on the internet, something big underneath. We need you to like and subscribe. Between now and the next time you and I manifest tarot together, hey, peace and blessings.